SpectreVision Radio.
This is the evangelicals who are literally trying to change and are successfully changing laws that will keep you and certain groups, particularly marginalized groups, from healthcare, from access, from peace. All rooted in evangelicism. Wake up. If you still want to be on the hill of your grandma being a demon when all this is going on, all this shit is going on not because of your grandmama. I'm telling you that right now. Hey, babes. Welcome, welcome, welcome. E cabo, acuaba, bienvenido, sac pase, wagwan. What's up, yo? Welcome to A Little Juju Podcast, the Africana Ethereal Podcast, diving deep into the medicinal, the magical, and the ancestral spiritual tools that will help get us free. I am your host, Juju Bae, author of the Book of Juju, Oshun Priestess, Oreye, and of course your favorite big cousin conjurer. All right, y'all, we're here. Welcome to another episode. So, updates for this week. I'm in therapy, and I was talking to my therapist recently, and we were talking about just the world and just politics and just how things feel so dreary and down and just like depressing. And we got into this conversation about what is the purpose of me or anybody being in therapy. Like, it's kind of like the world is ending. Why am I in therapy? Like, things are messed up around me. Why am I trying to create normalcy in the midst of chaos? Like, maybe I should be being chaotic. Maybe I should crash out. Like, these are crash out times. Why am I trying to hinder that crash out? And we sort of arrived at this place of this, the therapeutic relationship not necessarily being about anybody else. It's not about society in a way. Like, this is about us. This is about me. This is about me having or taking ownership of my existence, the ways that I want to feel and who I want to be amidst the chaos. And even for me, therapy feels like, I cannot think of the word I want. For me, therapy feels like a place for me to be accountable to someone. And that actually does include my community. That does include my family. That does include my partner. Because if I was just crash out, like my spirit really wants to, then who would I be to my people? And I don't think that that would be a version of myself that is trustworthy, is kind, is loving, is thoughtful, nor could it be the person that gives you all this, that, really strives to live in what we call in Orisha tradition, iwapele. So to have good character, to have gentle character is what we're all working towards. And so I couldn't have iwapele if I was not in therapy. So I've tried to divorce myself from the idea that me taking time for myself or doing this work is like pointless, or, why am I trying to feel good? I'm not supposed to feel good. Like, and no, it's not about, I'm not in therapy to feel good. I'm there to be accountable to myself, but also to you and to my people. I have a role, and so to fulfill my role, I have to do a specific kind of work. So that's kind of where I've been, just like parsing through what it means to be a healer who is healing. Because, I have a lot of work to do. I always want to remind you all, and just all of us as consumers of social media, just of everything, that we see the best parts of people. We see their most prettiest selves. We see the beat faces. We see the bust downs. We see them being funny. We don't see what they look like behind when the camera is off and when they are alone, or when they're with their loved ones, and how they are and how they act and what they say. And I am also a part of that. You all don't see that side of me. I don't show that. I mean, I be crying, but outside of y'all seeing me cry, you don't know what the worst parts of what I am look like, right? So I don't want you all to be putting anybody, including myself, on a pedestal that you're not also on, or to assume that everything for me is together and that I'm this and I'm that. I'm definitely very blessed, and I acknowledge that, and I walk with a lot of gratitude in my life. But baby, if you see me at my worst, child, never forget I'm a bitch from Baltimore, okay? So that means that there are just certain things that come out of my mouth, that go on in my head, that many would deem insane. It's because I am.
Oh, honey. Girl.
But I am working towards having Iwa Pele. So I show up to y'all with Iwa Pele today. And yeah, that's just, just me always thinking and being in my feelings, being a Cancer. That's where I've been. So yeah, let's get into the episode. All right, so our first segment today is Ogun's Internet. This is the segment where I talk about things that I've seen online, things that I've seen on social media, which I'll be talking about on the God of Technologies interwebs. So today on Ogun's Internet, I've seen a lot of talk about ancestor altars, and I feel like every so often in my podcast, I talk about ancestor altars. I talk about it in the book of Juju, which you should have, okay? You should know what chapter. But in there, I talk about ancestor altars because they are a portal. And I encourage a lot of people to have some type of space in their home that they're acknowledging their history. They're acknowledging who they come from. It doesn't always have to be a space where, you're praying and being all ritualized like I am and doing certain things in front of our altar and leaving offerings. But I do encourage people to just have a practice of remembrance, even if it's not a full-on shrine. I have plenty of shrines in my house, even if it's not a full-on shrine, but just having something. Maybe you got a picture of your grandmama. Maybe you got, your papa's ring that you keep on your counter. Something that sort of regrounds and centers you and brings the groundedness of the people who loved you and supported you. Not your aunt, not the people that you came from that wasn't shit. You don't gotta call on that. I'm talking about people that you loved and who valued you and who you valued and who support you and who fight for you. That doesn't always mean that they have to be like the sweet ancestors, because we need our hitters. We need our hitters too. But I ain't saying call on your crazy uncle, no shade. Unless you need that crazy energy, then maybe you will call on him. But what I've seen on the internet is people, of course, talking about ancestor altars. It's a hot topic, especially on TikTok, building your altar, how to build an altar. And I've done videos in the past of how to build an altar. Again, talked about it in the book. But I think that there's a way to talk about it that isn't just giving everybody the sauce on TikTok. I keep bringing up TikTok. I do have a lot of gripes. Personal gripes with TikTok. And I love TikTok as an app. I think it's the funniest app. I think it's the best app. But I also think that it has the capacity to platform messaging that I think can be harmful, especially when we're talking about indigenous spiritual systems, diasporan traditions. We have to toy the line between what gets to be portrayed and what doesn't. And so I'm not saying I'm a public figure spiritualist. So of course, I think that some people actually should be talking about this. But sometimes I feel like with TikTok, especially, there feels like there's no discretion. And so in the topic of ancestor altars, sometimes I'm like, hey, y'all, this is how you build an altar. But you need this for this, this for this, this for this, and just go do it. And everybody in the comments like, hey, I'm about to do it. And it's like, wait, they didn't even tell you what could happen, how to clean it. They didn't even mention like why you're doing this. They didn't even say like who you should be calling on. They didn't even say that you could be inviting other spirits that are not your honorable ancestors that could be sitting all up in there because you're just throwing things together because you saw it on TikTok. We have to be really careful about, one, of course, who we are listening to, but also just listening to something that somebody said, especially as it revolves spirits. Like, spirits are cool and fun. This is someone, I'm invested in spirits. I talk to spirits. Like, I have relationship. Like, me and spirits are locked in. But there are, I don't even want to call it downsides, but I never want to portray an image of being a spiritualist as like it's all well and good and I'm doing the right thing and y'all aren't. There's levels to this. There are spirits that are not sweet, that are not kind. There are entities. Is that person on TikTok telling you how to deal with that? Would you know how to deal with that? Are you a scary person? Maybe don't build an ancestor altar yet. Maybe put up a picture or two and let that be your space. Everyone is not meant to have ancestor altars in the same way. And I want to come clean about something. So I actually don't have an ancestor altar anymore, and not in the ways that I've talked about it. I have done so much work in the book and content and writing and about ancestor altars, and I think that they are valuable tools, but I don't have one anymore. And I'm in the process soon of rebuilding my ancestor altar in a different way. It's going to be more of a shrine space. But my ancestors were like, first of all, they were getting on my nerves. And one thing practice spiritualists will tell you is like, your ancestors, they support us and love us and guide us. They have great advice, but they were still people. And they still have opinions. They have bias. Still in death, they have their biases. They have a lot of the things that they carried. I think a lot of them do elevate. They get to see the world differently. And they're like, oh, okay, we get it. But sometimes some of them like to be stuck in their ways, even in death. And I had a lot of ancestors who were coming through being stuck in their ways, who were not understanding choices that I was making in my own life. And I was like, you know what? I don't have to do none of this. Like, y'all are actually venerated because of me, because ain't nobody else giving y'all offerings. Ain't nobody. So until we can get on the same page, I'm going to log out. And I logged out of that altar. Like, I just took all my things down. And that doesn't mean I don't commune with them, that I don't connect with them. I do readings almost every day. And my readings are primarily ancestral. So they still are there, but I was like, we need space. And so I took my altar down because I needed space from them. And then later down the line, they actually came to me and were like, okay, we get it. Sorry about some things, blah, blah, blah. But we want a more traditional altar space, a shrine space. So like something that is consecrated, something that was given to me by a practitioner who blessed it with me, you know. So they wanted a more traditional altar. And traditional altars, you know, when we think about, you know, what an ancient altar might look like, altars or shrines really were outside. They were on the front porch. They were buried underground. You know, essentially at one point we were burying our family members in our plot of land. That shifted, of course, being in the U.S., you can't bury dead people unless you want to go to jail on your land. And then, you know, we have churches and we have cemeteries. So the dead sort of moved from being intimately close to their relatives to then being at a cemetery somewhere else, which I think is fine. But, you know, my ancestors have kind of wanted to, you know, when my elders passed, I can't bury them in the concrete in Brooklyn. Okay. I will go to prison, but I can get a piece or a shrine thing. Not me calling them a thing. I can get a shrine that was consecrated and different. So they didn't want the table anymore. They didn't want the candles. They didn't want how I was going about it. It worked for them, but they also just didn't want that. So now I don't have an altar, but I am constructing and working with a priest to have a consecrated ancestral shrine, which is what they prefer. So again, all of that may not be relevant for you, but my point is, especially with what I've been seeing on Ogun's internet, just be careful. Just be careful of what you're doing. Be cautious. That doesn't mean be scary about it, but don't feel like you gotta do the altar and have the things up. And I'm in readings all the time where people are like, oh, well, I want to build an altar, but like, I don't know. And I didn't have a cloth. And it's like, okay, calm down. Just have a space. The point is to have a space that acknowledges and honors who you are and where the fuck you came from and who the fuck you came from. And remembering that those people still, even in the afterlife, love you and look out for you and support you and uplift you. unless they were crazy. And even our crazy ancestors support us. But unless, I've been seeing some stuff on Oakland's internet talking about ancestors being demons, which kind of gets me to this next point. I don't know what that man's name is on Eggs and Grits podcast, Grits and Eggs, Scrapple. I don't remember. This is no shade to him. He said great things. I just don't remember the name of that man's podcast. So he was on this podcast. This is not a spiritual podcast, but he was talking about hoodoo and he was talking about ancestors. And I was kind of gagged. I was like, wow, again, people are saying hoodoo out loud on their mainstream shows. People are talking about this practice, and this podcast with this guy is huge. And he was talking about how people were saying that he was talking about ancestors and why they're important. And he actually went on to critique Christianity and basically said that, I think he said something like Jesus is keeping Black people from liberation. We'll put a clip in.
Jesus is standing in the way of the power of your gratitude really being fulfilled, right? You are misplacing your gratitude. You give all of the gratitude to the blood of Jesus and his sacrifice, but our ancestors spilled their blood, sacrificed their lives, sacrificed their pride, sacrificed their dignity, and endured not only for our sake, but for the sake of your children. They had us in mind, right? And they don't get any acknowledgement. You don't acknowledge your own blood that was sacrificed. You acknowledge the sacrifice of this man.
And so I think, even though I don't think that Jesus is always doing that, because there's nuances to that, I get what he's saying. But a lot of people responded to him and tried to wore him out in the comments. Like, wow, you lost a listener. Ancestors are demons, this and that. And I'm just like, we haven't moved past the thoughts that your ancestors are demons yet. My ancestors were not demons. I don't know who y'all came from. Maybe your ancestors were demons. Maybe you're speaking from personal narrative. I can't relate to the demon ancestors. I can relate to having some crazy ass niggas. I can relate to having some drunks. I can relate to having a whole bunch of people. Okay, I had an episode back in the day called My Ancestors Was Hoes, period. That's a positive. But y'all are, sorry. But demons, we have to start questioning who told us that. Who told you your grandmother was a demon? Who told you that? First question. Second question is, and then why did you believe them? What self-hatred do you have so deep in your spirit and heart to where you would agree and succumb to the belief system that your pappy is a demon? I'm talking about ancestors. I'm talking about honorable people that you descend from. Yes, some of our ancestors were chaotic. They were messy. They didn't take care of their kids. But that to me is a part of the beauty of the tradition, because it means even in flaw, they can still show up. Even if they wasn't shit in the spirit, in the physical realm, often they can heal and want to show up a different way in the spiritual. Ancestors say sorry all the time. They want to right their wrongs all the time. I do this for a living. The guilt that so many ancestors have for how they raised, often not even who I'm talking to, but like their parents. Like, oh yeah, your mama like that because I'm so sorry. I get that all the time. And I think that there is a beauty and a healing in being able to heal with someone who isn't even here anymore. That's the power of what ancestral medicine is supposed to do. People are trying to keep you from that actively. Christian evangelicism is on a rise. And this is no shade to the everyday cool Christians. This is the evangelicals who are literally trying to change and are successfully changing laws that will keep you and certain groups, particularly marginalized groups, from healthcare, from access, from peace. all rooted in evangelicism. Wake up. If you still want to be on the hill of your grandma being a demon when all this is going on, all this shit is going on not because of your grandmama. I'm telling you that right now. Maybe your mama's fucked up because of her. Okay, fair. But everything that's happening, the world chaos, is not because of grandma. Grits, eggs, scrapping with cheese, he toured with that. He toured with that. And I'm so tired of seeing the things that y'all were saying about him and everyone else who is trying to just get y'all to open your eyes. Nobody's saying you can't pray to Jesus. No one's saying that. They're just saying, and as you're praying to Jesus, sometimes it was Uncle Terry as well, who was making sure you had that connection. It was Uncle Terry who's been helping you write your music because he was a writer. Just niggas don't get their things. This is about give your niggas their things. That's it. You can pray. Ancestors come through all the time and they'll say, get in that Bible all the time. So they're not even saying like you need to be praying to us all the time that we are God. Ancestors are not God. They are your ancestors. And once we realize that they are not God, but that they can still support us and help us while we also have God, that's when you'll know we really locked into something. Again, I don't care who y'all pray to, but stop calling your elders demons on TikTok and any other social media platform, please. Because you know who has to hear about it? Me. Because y'all I have to hear about it. They complain to me. Y'all people complain to me. And I'm tired. Your people who used to run their mouth in this physical realm still running their damn mouth today. I'm tired. So stop. Thank you. Another thing that the guy, I'm so sorry I keep calling this man the guy. I should have took note of his name, but that he was saying was that there's the Mona Leo song, the sexy Solons. I still don't know how to pronounce it, but the sexy souls. She has that song and she made a lot of hoodoo references in the song. So a lot of hoodoos have been going up, or people who are like, oh wait, what's that mean? Like she's talking about the broom and she's talking about, and he was saying like, we have to be careful of not sharing what those things mean in TikTok comments, because people are asking on TikTok, oh, Mona Leo said this, what does that mean?
Give them some tune. They throwing salt on the player because they can't get in the room. Okay, I'm sweeping these bitches, they want to spit on the broom.
And I agree. I do think that we have to be careful about always sharing. But he basically said, like, we Black people invite other people to be culture vultures. Like, we open the door for them to be culture vultures. And I think to an extent we do. I don't think that is why people are culture vultures, because we invite them. But I do believe in gatekeeping. And I'm glad that it feels like, and as a collective, we understand the importance of gatekeeping a little bit more. But people steal from me whether you open the door or they break in. So I don't want to put the blame all on us. Like, if niggas gonna steal, they're gonna figure a way to get in your house. Like, that's just what it is. But if you make it harder, if you put locks on and have an alarm, they could be deterred. So I think he was on to something. But I want to uplift Zora Neale Hurston, a piece that I say all the time, especially in my hoodoo class. If you did not take my hoodoo class, I don't know what's going on, but you can get the playback on jujubae.com courses. But I talked about this in my hoodoo course, where Zora Neale Hurston talks about how hoodoo sort of went from a Black practice to be having more white people prying in. So she says, the best source, meaning of hoodoo, is where there are the least outside influences. And these people, being usually underprivileged, are the shyest. They are most reluctant at times to reveal that which the soul lives by. And the Negro, in spite of his open-faced laughter, his seeming acquiesce is particularly evasive. You see, we are a polite people, and we do not say to our questioner, "Get out of here." We smile and tell him or her something that satisfies the white person, because knowing so little about us, he doesn't know what he's missing. And then she goes on to say, the Indian resists curiosity by a stony silence, but the Negro offers a featherbed resistance. That is, we let the probe enter, but it never comes out. So in it, she's saying, like, you know, especially as white folk became more interested in hoodoo, that the Negro, as she says, you know, we would let them in. Oh, hey, yeah, hey, sir, how you doing? Oh, you want to know how to do that? Well, sometimes I put this together, sometimes I do that, and I say a prayer, and that's how it goes. And they're like, okay, cool, like, write it down, thanks. But meanwhile, you done told them 3 ingredients, but there's 4, you know, and I left out the 4th thing that I do. I left out the 4th thing that I would say. I left out the 4th prayer. I left out the 4th working. So I think to an extent, Zora Hurston is right. We do seem to be a polite people. We do let people in. But I don't always think we say the last ingredient. We may say a lot. But just because somebody know, don't mean they know. Just because somebody know, don't mean they know. And I think we know that somewhere deep down. So I do want to acknowledge what that gentleman said, and also bring in what Zora Hurston says about we just be acting polite. But we let the probe enter, but it doesn't really come out all the way. Okay, y'all. Our next segment today is cod liver oil. Now, cod liver oil is the healing segment where we talk about things from the past and the present that can help us heal, that can help us get through, and a nod to the ancestral medicine that is cod liver oil. Yeah. Okay, so today's cod liver oil is from personal experience. So I made some greens recently, and I had the pot liquor left, and I was telling my partner, I was like, hey, do you want the pot liquor? She was like, what's that? I was like, you don't know pot liquor? She was like, no, what is that? I'm like, it's the remnants of the greens. It's the leftover juices. And so I made her drink a cup of pot liquor. She enjoyed it, and then I drank the second batch. And so I was like, wait, this is a heal yourself tip, because this is some old school shit. So if you don't know, if you were like my girlfriend, pot liquor is the remnants of a boiled vegetable, usually greens, any kinds of greens. Sometimes I know some people also drink like potato juice. It's kind of like beans as well, just like the leftover essence. And essentially because you're boiling the vegetables, you're sometimes boiling the benefits of it out of the actual vegetable. And all those benefits, all that goodness, all those vitamins go into the water itself. And it becomes mixed with the seasonings and the ingredients. And so it's just like a high vitamin fucking yum pot. And so I wanted to uplift pot liquor today. So I wanted to pull some scientific research. Y'all know I love science. Western science, though, sometimes falls short. And so as I was researching, I actually came across something that said, you know, there's not a lot of scientific research on the health benefits of pot liquor, but it seems to be vitamin rich. This is something typically that has been passed down orally, and it could be helpful in cooking. And this is what Dr. Sonora Nelson says, who is a family medicine physician. So again, the scientific research doesn't always support it, but we know we don't always need Western science to support what we know. It makes sense that the juices and the broth from a vegetable would be high in vitamins. So what I read, particularly if it's pot liquor from greens, high in vitamin C, vitamin K, vitamin A, and iron. So beyond the taste and the health benefits, I also think that pot liquor is spiritual in nature too. And so I wanted to do some research on if there's any spiritual uses that folks use for pot liquor. And I actually found this random woman on Facebook who was in a healers group. It was public though. So this was from Ladrika Norfeet, and I'll put the link to the post in there. But she talks about the spiritual uses of pot liquor. First, she lists the cultural heritage, so that pot liquor holds a cultural significance and that it represents resilience and survival because it is about sharing meals, and including pot liquor in that sort of reinforces communal bonds, which is definitely a spiritual act. 2, she says, is comfort and connection. So consuming pot liquor can be a source of comfort, providing a sense and connection to your family, to your ancestors, to recipe, to just this act of gathering and culinary practices of your ancestors, which is deeply spiritual. And the third thing she lists is ritualistic uses, which was new to me. She said in some households, pot liquor is included in rituals or gatherings to invoke blessings, to bring prosperity or togetherness among family and friends. So not only does it taste good, there of course are always a spiritual reason or something deeper rooted connected into what we eat. Food is healing. Food is communal. Food is connection. But it is also deeply spiritual. It's how we sustain. And what is more spiritual than sustenance? So this week's cod liver oil, make yourself some pot liquor. Let me know in the comments. Y'all gonna make some greens. Y'all gonna boil some green beans. What pot liquor y'all gonna drink so you can get your vitamin A and your iron? Because, you know, the girls be iron deficient. I'm the girls. I'm the girl. All right, y'all. Let's take a break to pay the light bill and we'll be right back. A Little Juju podcast is an independent podcast, and it is a labor of love, but it is labor nonetheless. Equipment, time, energy, resources. I want to pay my team, y'all. We need your support to do so. So I appreciate all of the love, the posts on social media, the tags, listening to it with your grandpappy. And what I also love is them comments, okay? So if you are interested in joining the Patreon, patreon.com/Juju Bae, that is where you can directly support the show. For $7 a month, that's like, honestly, in New York, that's a cup of coffee. For a cup of coffee with oat milk. For a cup of coffee with oat milk, a medium, a month, you can support this deep ancestral healing work. So head on over to patreon.com/Juju Bae to join. Now, if you want a little bit more, if you're like, Juju, I want to support you more, there are other tiers, and on those other tiers, you get extra perks. So not just the podcast. I teach divination classes. I do reading of the month. We meet together. I talk with my patrons. There's a private Discord chat. Like, that's where I've been at. When I've been on hiatus, I've actually just been on the Patreon. They done seen me. So if you're interested in that, feel free, come on over, join the Good Juju community, have fun. And I just appreciate y'all. Even if you're not able to, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for listening. Share it with your family, share it with your friends. And otherwise, I will see you on the Patreon and share in the good juju with me. I want to give thanks for all of my current patrons and even all of my future patrons. Thank y'all so much for supporting me and just investing in me, essentially. I literally could not do this without my patrons. I could not actually eat without my patrons. So I really appreciate y'all so much. And as you all share with me, I'm sharing the energy of abundance and prosperity with you tenfold. May you have the resources, may you have the coin, may you have the community, may you have the friends to actualize whatever gifts that you're supposed to actualize in this lifetime. So thank y'all so much, and I'll see you over on the Patreon. Welcome back, y'all. So this next segment is called Dear Juju, one of my favorite segments where you write into me about your questions of love, relationships, spirituality, ancestors, your altar, your nigga. This is where you can write in, and if you want my advice, I will lovingly give you the advice that you are seeking. Maybe a little drag, maybe a little hug, whatever it is that you need. Please feel free to write in your letters. They will remain anonymous and they might be read on the show. So today's letter reads, Dear Juju, my partner and I have had a rough go of things since last spring when we began experimenting with polyamory. Shortly after that, I had a massive burnout and so did my partner. Then we both got diagnosed neurodivergent, so it's been really tough. We had simultaneous breakdowns and said things we shouldn't have and separated for a while. It took us a while before we were able to talk again and begin to process, which is already really hard and slow for me because of my diagnosis. I was wondering if you have any ideas or rituals for repair that we can do together, or even rituals that I can do alone to help me process and work through what happened and forgive myself. Thank you so much. Appreciate you and all the work that you do. Signed, this person also didn't sign. We'll call it questioning Polly. Thank you so much, questioning Polly, for this question. Yeah, I totally get just partner stuff, you know, just not seeing eye to eye, also being neurodivergent, and just all the things that come with just ourselves and being able to process ourselves. And then on top of that, you have to process with another person. And in y'all situation, you're saying that you both decided to be polyamorous, which means that you're also processing with other niggas. So it's a lot of processing that can sometimes feel even hindered by our diagnoses or being neurodivergent. So first, I just want you to like relax and just know that it's okay. I know that you said that you were feeling a little bit guilty about what you said. I think that's totally normal. I've said some wild shit out of my mouth in my day, okay? And we can feel guilty or like, dang, I shouldn't have said it like that, or maybe that made things worse, but it was said. And the best thing to do to move forward is acknowledge maybe how you may have hurt your partner by what you said, apologize, which I'm sure you've already done, and then forgive. If your partner has forgiven you, you got to forgive yourself too, because harboring on that moment or what you said is not going to help the situation move. It's not going to help y'all get closer. It's not going to help y'all reconnect. You're just going to be feeling bad. So I'm encouraging you to acknowledge it. If you haven't apologized, apologize, and then start to rebuild. Things happen when we are upset. Now, of course, there's a fine line to what we should be doing. We should fight fair. As I learned in couples therapy, you should fight fair, but there's still going to be fights. So it's okay to fight, but fight fair. So it's okay if you don't fight fair, move forward, try to heal. Now, in regards to rituals, there's something that I've read in the Spirit of Intimacy, and essentially, don't quote me exactly, but it's coming up, so I feel like I need to say it. And this book by Sobonfu Some, she is an elder. She's actually an honorable ancestor now. And she talks about relationship, but more from a Dagara, an indigenous African perspective of how people were in relationship to each other, how they healed problems, how they worked through their issues, how they celebrated each other. And in it, she talks about this ritual called the ash circle, where they would put ash or some kind of material on the ground in a circle. And the two people, the partners or whoever might have been in conflict, would be in that circle. And the circle is where they were able to feel safe to express. So they would call on, their honorable ancestors or whoever would be around to help them. So you're asking spirit to, hey, we're getting in the ash circle right now. This is our safe place. Can you help facilitate a healing space for us? Let us come back together. We know that we were put together divinely. So may we get to the root of why we were put together while we are in this circle. And I think in traditional Dagara culture, there may be like elders and community around people who they trust with the relationship. I think now, as Westerners, that can be tricky because we don't want people in our business. We don't want to tell people what we got going on. And sometimes you tell people something you said or what your partner said, then they don't like your partner no more. So I think that gets tricky. But I do feel like I want to get to a place where maybe we do start to invite people respectfully into our lives, just to know that we're not the only ones and y'all aren't the only ones dealing with this. So maybe you do have a mediator of some sort. So maybe it's not the ash circle, but you do have mediation. Maybe it is couples therapy. Maybe there is someone who can help y'all hear each other out. But if you did want to go that route, I do recommend getting The Spirit of Intimacy. I recommend that book to coupled people, married people, single people. I don't care what you are. If you want to be in a relationship, you are in one, or you've been in one, you need to read The Spirit of Intimacy. And so I think she really lays out how to do that. So if you wanted a kind of ritual to create this safe space, maybe y'all do a safe corner in your home. Like you put a candle up and maybe you put a plant and some water, because water represents peace and healing. So having a bowl of water and sitting on the ground and talking in between you all with the bowl of water to invite a calmer, more flowing energy. That's my recommendation in regards to ritual. Now, I'm not even trying to read y'all, but I'm wondering, because you didn't ask me for a reading, but you did ask me for my advice. I'm wondering if polyamory is the choice that is best for you all to make at this time. Because if you're having difficulty with communication between you two, do you all feel capable enough to be able to then expand that communication to whoever else you all may be dating. I genuinely don't know the answer, but it's just coming up that I needed to offer that to you. So, you know, poly is an experience. You don't have to be poly all the time. You could be poly and then you're like, hold on, maybe we need to be monog, you know, check in, lock in, and then we be poly again, you know. So not being afraid to see how that dynamic can be up and down. It can shift, it can change. And if you're like, no, we're poly, that's it, we're done, then I do recommend some type of spiritual ash circle, or like the comfy corner, the cozy corner with our water, so that you all can have a safe, affirming space to talk through the reasons why you all were put together divinely. So I hope that advice helps. Thank y'all so much. And if you want your question answered, don't forget to go to dearjuju@yahoo.com. Yes, Yahoo, to get your loving questions answered. Thank y'all so much for joining me for another episode of A Little Juju Podcast. This is so fun. I missed y'all real bad. If you want to keep up with me, of course, follow me on Instagram at ITSJUJUBAE. It's Juju Bae, as well as A Little Juju Podcast, spelled out very easy. Of course, you can join my Patreon, as I said, patreon.com/JujuBae. If you want a little Juju extras, you can go to my site, book a reading with me. If you want to bring me out to your university. Listen, the academic girls have been calling me, and I thank you for that academic coin. The academic girls are calling me. So if you want to bring me to your school, your organization, your community space, go to my website, jujubae.com. That is where I have a contact button. You can hit that and you can bring me out, reach out to me. Again, thank you all so much. I'm sharing all the good juju, all the love, all the energy with you, and I will see you next time. But remember, all you need is a little juju. Bye.
All you need is a little juju. All you need is a little juju. All you need is a little juju. All you need is, all you need.